Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. War between President Trump and the press. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Critical mass has now been reached as the Trump administration is denying access to certain news organizations it believes are out to get the president. Also, in an act of defiance, the president announced he will not show up to this year's White House Correspondents' Dinner in April. He does, however, want everybody to have a good time. If this political controversy were a legal case, and if I were the judge, I'd have to recuse myself. That's because for the past 20 years, I've watched the liberal media in America scorch the Fox News channel and the people who work here, including me. The attacks are personal, relentless, and often dishonest. Just last week, after Alan Colmes passed, a far-left smear website vilified him as a weak liberal, a calculated pawn for this network. Does it get any worse than that? No, it does not. So there's no question that if the national media does not like your politics, it will try to hurt you, even if you're deceased. Anyone denying that is a deceiver. Of course, the Trump administration is well aware of this. It knows the media is desperately trying to link the Trump campaign to Russia and will use anonymous sources to drive that narrative in the hope the election will be perceived as invalid. By the way, we do not use anonymous sources here. I've been told plenty of bad stuff about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, but without attribution, it's not going to be reported. The president also understands that certain news organizations despise him to the point that employees actually fear for their jobs if they say positive things about him. Many left-wing editors and executives believe Mr. Trump's positions on illegal immigration, Muslim terrorism, global warming, abortion, crime, and just about every other issue define the president as a dangerous man who must be destroyed. Therefore, anyone supporting him cannot be tolerated. There will be no détente. The gulf is too wide. It will be one nasty media confrontation after another until the president leaves office. Now, it's difficult to see how this awful situation benefits anyone. The country's not helped by all the acrimony. Talking Points believes the president has a right to defend himself, but should do so using facts. If a report is wrong, fake news, have Sean Spicer vividly refuted in detail. If access is denied to certain press organizations, again, specifically spell out why. If you don't, you come off as petulant. Facts will always win the debate, always, as we prove on this program every night. As for the Correspondents' Dinner, the president's smart for not going. Like him or not, he's not big on hypocrisy. Yucking it up with an industry that obviously wants to hurt him would be bizarre. So send the vice president and a nice donation to the dinner scholarship fund that helps students. Cold fact is, the presidential election of 2016 defined the free press in America. It is actively left-wing, not objective. But now things have become so much worse than just ideology. Now it's war. And that's a memo. So let's have some reaction with us here in New York City. Joe Concha, media writer for The Hill. Merrill Brown, director of Montclair State University School of Communication. Where am I going wrong here, Professor Brown?
You're going wrong because you're lumping the media into one little ball, and it's many things. The media is Slate, a publication you just cited. The media is National Review. The media is the Weekly Standard. The media is Fox. The media is CBS. The media is MSNBC. There are divergent points of view on each one of those publications, and they cover the president and the administration differently.
All right, so there's a divergent point of view on MSNBC?
Different from the point of view on this network,
okay.
For sure.
I don't think that. So if you add up all the news organizations on a national basis, okay, what percentage of people working for those news organizations would you consider liberal?
An overwhelming percentage. I would bet the vote for...
You're an honest man. Overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Okay. So now when you have overwhelmingly one ideology, and then you have a president who is unacceptable to them, I would say, wouldn't that word be accurate? Donald Trump's unacceptable to the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, because he's not, he doesn't have the gravitas for the job. I think that's what.
Not legitimate. You used the word war before, and I think that's appropriate. And sometimes wars are fought in different ways. There's open bias, there's advocacy that you've pointed out many times in the show. But then there's also the bias of omission. And what I see is a media that reflexively goes towards the negative with Donald Trump. And let me give you a big example from this weekend. NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. talks about approval, disapproval for the president. He's a 44 approve, 48 disapprove. And that dominated headlines. But there were two questions within there, Bill, that were not reported almost in any fashion that are very important, very compelling. You could see it as very positive. First was right track, wrong track. 40% of Americans believe that we're on the right track now. You know what that number was in July? 18%. It's more than doubled, not reported anywhere. How's the economy doing? Do you think it'll get better or worse under President Trump? 41% say it will get better. Only 21% say worse. That's how people vote. Was that part of the poll reported? No, it was not. So the bias of omission is the most dangerous kind of bias you could have, and that's what I see a lot of reporters engaging in, not focusing on the positive.
Bill, it's an unusual presidency, right? I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
And Trump is an unusual president.
Right.
And he's not released his tax returns where all his predecessors in recent times have. That's likely to create a level of tension between press and president that I think you and I could agree is legitimate.
No, I'm not so upset about. I mean, I wish he would, because that's always better to have a full view of the leader. But that's not a major issue for me, releasing a tax return. He's a businessman. You assume that he's taken a lot of deductions and a lot of things like that, depreciations, which will not be reported accurately by the press. It won't. He knows it. But let me throw this at you. Fox News poll out today, just out, all right? 55% of the American people have no confidence in the media, Professor. 55%. Why do you think that is?
It is because there's been a history of inadequate coverage by the media of lots of things, right and left.
You don't think it's a Trump thing?
I think it's in part a Trump thing. The media have been hard on Trump, and the 40% of the country that supports him don't like that.
Do you think the media was hard on President Obama?
The media was not as hard on President Obama as they've been on President Trump.
See, right there you have a rigged system. It's rigged. Trump likes that word. It's rigged. But it is rigged, and it shouldn't be, because this is too important. Now, you say it's a war, and obviously Talking Points agrees with you. I don't. Talking Points does.
Oh, of course. He's a good guy, Talking Points.
And people don't understand that when you can use Talking Points as a device. It's a literary device. But anyway, let's get back to you.
Yes.
I don't see the war ending. I just can't see it, because the press has hardened its left-wing viewpoint. It's hardened it. And Trump is never going to give in to them, ever.
The war began under President Obama, I would argue. James Risen, he writes for the New York Times, not exactly a bastion of conservative sentiment. He said that President Obama and his administration was the most anti-press since Nixon. And I'll give you 3 reasons why. They openly spied his Justice Department on reporters, including James Rosen, from this network. They secretly seized phone records from the Associated Press, 2 months' worth. And there wasn't this outrage, this boycotting of a White House Correspondents' Dinner or threats to boycott. They rejected more FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Acts, than any administration in history. President Obama was anti-Trump.
Quietly. He did it.
Well, that's the thing. Those are actions.
Right.
And the press is now mad about Trump's words.
Right.
I base somebody on their actions, and we didn't hear a peep about it under Obama, and certainly people weren't boycotting the White House Correspondents' Dinner over it.
Let's give the professor the last word.
Well, excluding people from White House briefings is not going to do anybody any good. You know that the press is likely going to win that one, inevitably. Excluding the press from access to documents like tax returns, that's also not in anybody's interest. And transparency, I think, will get us past this, and the war might at least quiet down.
I doubt it. Number one, he's never going to release his tax returns. He's going to have to. And number 2, it's just going to get worse.
The biggest story of the next 4 years, Trump versus media, I guarantee you.
Particularly if President Trump's successful. The more successful he gets, the more the hatred's going to rise to try to take him out somehow.
This is not about policy, Bill. It's about a lot of other things.
No, I agree with that. Is personality involved with this? Is power involved with this? Style involved?
That hatred also has a boomerang effect.
The press would
People see it, and they actually end up supporting Trump as a result.
The press would much rather be debating defense spending today than these issues, I assure you.
No, they'd much rather impeach him and get him out of there. That's what they want to do. Gentlemen, thank you. Next on